My name is Mona Krieger, and I was burned in a car accident in 1982, 31 years ago, actually, as of Thanksgiving Sunday. It's been a long journey since then, and the transitions are kind of long and hard. Let me tell you a little bit about my story. I was a college freshman, and I was going back to school, and I got in a ride with some friends, and our car skidded on an icy bridge and hit another car. And on a frontal collision, the hatchback opened, and I flew out of the car and landed in burning gas in the road. So that left me with about 35% third degree. This is back in the 80s, so a long time ago. And I ended up at a burn center. I was there for about 3 months, critical for about 5 weeks. And that injury really changed the course of my life. So burns are something that you don't just get to kind of walk away from. There's that first hospital time, then you get out of the hospital and you're still usually having surgeries depending on your injury. So it's a long journey. And so it's one thing to kind of prepare yourself for as you're thinking about leaving the hospital is that, every day is a new day and there are steps you're going to take, and it just takes time. The transitions take time. So, and one thing about if you have an injury and any altered appearance, staring kind of becomes a fact of life. And I don't think that people mean to be rude. They don't. It's just anything different will catch somebody's eye. So a wheelchair or a cane or the way you walk, anything catches people's eyes. And so you have to kind of understand that and realize that a lot in a social situation depends on you. And you can set the tone, you can set the energy for interactions. And part of me, when I first got going, my face was burned pretty badly. I lost my nose, I lost my right ear, I lost my hair. So it took a good several years for me to kind of I wore a mask for 2 years. It took a while for me to get back to more of an appearance where I could just kind of navigate society without a lot of staring. So I really had to learn from the get-go kind of how to present myself in public. And back then, like today, we have more tools, more established kind of support and things you learn, but I kind of did it on my own back then, and I didn't do it very well. There were days when I wanted to just stay home and do nothing, but part of me was like, I am not going to let a stranger determine my existence. So if I want to go somewhere, I'm going to go somewhere, and that's where it kind of comes back on you. When you leave the hospital, especially if you're still doing some bandage changes and some basic wound care, it takes time. I had my mother helping me a lot. You kind of need a good support system around you to help you with the little things, especially depending on how well your hands work. But it takes time to heal. And so just kind of have to prepare yourself for that, where you kind of think, oh, I'll be home for a couple of weeks and it's all going to be better. But it doesn't. It takes time. So those bandage changes can be a little stressful at first, but you just kind of, you're glad to be home. So it's a good thing to be home. And so you just kind of have to deal with the bandage changes. As things heal, the itching becomes a problem that, makes itself felt. I used to have my mom just like rub my donors or rub an area really gently that was itching so terribly. And I would keep my nails real short because I would be in the middle of the night, I would just start scratching and do damage that I had no control over. You just kind of have to protect yourself and be careful. Put a glove on at night if you're really hurting yourself. But just like a gentle rub on that itching. Some people like Benadryl, it works for them. It didn't really help me very much because sometimes the pain is like those nerve endings that are kind of regenerating. It can take up a year or two for the nerves to regenerate. So standing in one place can be hard. If you're brushing your teeth, I'd always be kind of like jumping from foot to foot to kind of get me going. That's normal, very normal to have some nerves. Some of the areas of the grafts are a little more deadened. You don't have the same sensation afterwards. But then you have areas like on my hands that these little nerves that are at the surface. And so if you nick one of those or bump it, or it's odd, this is mix of deadened sensation, not completely deadened, but a little bit, and then nerve issues. So that's just something you're going to have to feel with your own body and your own how you heal. Everybody's a little bit different, but be prepared for that. I had to have surgery for about the majority of them in the first 2 years after my accident. And I wore a mask for 2 years. Usually the pressure garments you wear for about 9 months to a year. The pressure garments are really, really important. I can't say that enough. What the pressure on that new skin does, it makes your scars in the long run flatter and smoother. And I mean, I've talked to people both ways, some who wore them and some who didn't. No one regrets wearing their garments for the year, ever. But I have talked to people who've regretted not wearing them. You know, they're hot, they can be itchy, they're not comfortable, but the pressure garments are really important. It will minimize your scarring. And so, you know, what's 9 months of your life when you're looking at years and years ahead of you? So the garments are really important to wear. Like I said, for about 2 years, I was in this cycle of every few months I'd go back in, well, especially for facial burns. I needed I lost my nose, and so that took almost like a year plus to get a nose from a flap, and had some ongoing surgeries. And those were tough. You kind of feel like your life is a little bit in limbo and you're sort of living from surgery to surgery. I was a student at the time, so I was able to take some correspondence classes and just sort of keep up with my life a little bit, but also like the limbos can be kind of hard. But I think it's just important. I would try to like gear myself up for surgery. You have to think of that long term of every surgery means an improvement. And so even though it's kind of emotionally hard to go back to the hospital, when you realize that you're working towards improvements, that's really helpful.